Right, so today I'm going to do this video about the ego. Three things really to look out for is what is the ego, why is the ego bad, and how to get rid of the ego. And when I come to the third one, the how, I'm going to give you three examples of that. So one is selfless service, one is detachment from results, and one is sensory pleasures. But let's start with what is the ego. I really like this analogy given in ancient yoga philosophy, specifically a book called the Bhagavad Gita, which was written, at least 3, but perhaps even 5,000 years ago. The Bhagavad Gita gives the analogy of a chariot, where your body is the chariot, and your 5 horses are the 5 senses, so sight, sound, taste, smell, touch. The reins are the intellect, and then the driver, which most people think it's you actually, you think it's you, the driver, it's actually the ego. Okay, and then there's a figure behind the ego, behind the driver, that most people don't realize is even there, and that is the passenger in the chariot, and that is the inner self, or the self. So, I'll give you an example of how this works. Let's say there's a cheese sandwich in the area, okay? One of your horses is the sense of smell. Your horse is like, nay, cheese. It's smelling cheese, right? It's just telling you, there's a message to cheese. The intellect, remember the reins that control the horses, that is your intellect. So that is telling you cheese is good. It tastes nice at least anyway. And also it's telling you you're hungry, all right? It might tell you that cheese is bad for you in its opinion as well. Okay, anyway, the driver is the ego. So the driver decides whether to go towards that cheese sandwich or whether to go away from that cheese sandwich. That's the ego. So the ego does the I want, I need, I'm gonna have that. So remember, the ego's got that info. It knows it's cheese, it knows cheese is good, it knows it's hungry, it might think cheese is bad, but it gives it that decision making, I want that, I need this, I want that, this is in my life, I've got to have this cheese in my life. Actually, if you let the ego kind of chill out a little bit, and the passenger can be the one whispering in the ear, don't worry ego, I'll handle this, actually we're going this way, so we don't need the cheese sandwich, okay, for example. So obviously using the example of cheese sandwich is something that, it's actually quite a neutral thing, but there's a lot of worse things out there, like greed, jealousy, anger, even sadness, and, various kind of emotions that we produce within us that kind of lead us to do things that we might not want to do, and we might not want to be that person who does that thing in their life, and we might be trying to be a better person, or trying to feel at least better about ourselves. I mean, I believe that all people are kind of created as a kind of like a oneness anyway, so being a better person doesn't really make sense, but giving power away from your ego to your true self, you'll find yourself being a lot more peaceful and happy. So how do you do that? Well, like I said, there's 3 ways of doing that. One is to do with sensory pleasures, one is selfless service, and one is detachment from results. So sensory pleasures, it's about calming down these horses. So, for example, you might want to not always kind of be going for that junk food or something like that, because your sensory pleasure, which is your sense of taste, is that horse pulling the reins, pulling the ego. So it's about trying not to indulge too much in that junk food, or it might be whether it's drinking alcohol, or it might be smoking, or it might be, in this day and age, dating. Everyone's on dating apps, or it could even be kind of being obsessed with your phone, or with anything really. So it's about being aware of what is pulling you in these directions. So the first thing is just observing yourself and understanding, what are these things in my life that maybe are not helping me actually, that I want freedom from these things. So I guess I'm not telling you to kind of give up everything that's kind of fun, all at once at least anyway, but certainly just become aware of them, observe them, and just by observing things, you're shining the light of your conscious awareness on those things will eventually dissolve if they're not kind of the pure things which your inner self, which is the thing which is an everlasting thing, will drive you forward, which is things like love. So anyway, the second thing that I mentioned about giving up ego-driven behaviors is selfless service. So if you do anything for other people, right, whether that's charity work, whether it's just a good deed, you know, for a really old person who's kind of trying to cross the road, or whether it's just your people at work or in your family, just helping them out, going that extra mile, but doing things in a selfless way. So you're not actually then trying to do that because you want to feel good. You're genuinely not trying to do that because, you know, you want some good karma coming your way, or because they're giving you a compliment. Oh, thanks, mate. You're so nice. You're just doing stuff selflessly. So try and practice that. You'll find that that's coming from a place of the self, because the inner self is this kind of character that is the same within all of us. So everyone's inner self is identical. So by selfless service, by doing things for other people, you're actually doing stuff for yourself. And that's why it helps yourself as well. So it's helping them, but they're a reflection of you. So if you're doing it not for their ego, not for your ego, but just for their selves, you're actually doing it for yourself. So you're going to feel a lot better about that too. And then the third approach to your life that you can try to kind of start implementing is this detachment from results. Now, this is a good one for people who are kind of at work and working hard, and in real life, you can't just sit in a field and meditate and do yoga all day, unfortunately. Although, by the way, that kind of relaxed activity does also help you kind of bypass the ego and get straight to the inner self. You know, making music, so anything where you're kind of creatively outputting is a great one. Okay, I know this is like a fourth one I'm sneaking in here, but thinking about it, this kind of creative output and a kind of a relaxed activity, yoga, meditation, music, you know, sport, you know, socializing in a kind of happy, neutral way. These things are this kind of like fourth thing that you can do. So there is a fourth thing that you can actually do also to try and strengthen your inner self and weaken your ego. But anyway, detachment from results works as follows. So let's say you're at work and you're trying to do a project, you're trying to do your best, and it's about just doing your best and not worrying about the results of that project. Or in a personal relationship, you're trying to make things work, trying to make someone happy, but don't worry about if they are actually happy or if it does actually work. You just focus on the trying and your bit in trying. And again, if you're doing good work and you're trying to, for example, you're looking to earn money to support your family, you do your thing, you do your hard work, you try and earn your money, but you don't worry about whether you do actually earn your money or not. You see, it's the ego that wants results. It's not the self. And the ego needs results because the ego is a thing that exists in the past and the future. So the ego is always thinking ahead. Well, when I get this thing, that's what I need. So I need that cheese sandwich, remember, or I need that beer. It's always the future. Or thinking back in the past. Like, for example, oh, I wish I had that cheese sandwich, or I wish I had that beer, or I remember meeting this person who was really rich. I wish I could be like them. So in that sense, if you think about it, the ego is kind of imaginary because the future hasn't happened yet. So that's a figment of your imagination. And let's be honest, the past is not here now. Where is the past? That is a figment of your memory banks. So that's why you're never going to feel satisfied if you're indulging in ego-led behaviors, because you're always only going to be satisfied in the past or the future. You're never going to be satisfied right now. So it's about chilling out your ego, strengthening your inner self, not being attached to results too much, selfless service, and perhaps, you know, looking at reducing sensory pleasures and kind of increasing more relaxed activities along the way. Thanks a lot. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up on the YouTube channel, subscribe and follow us, leave any comments underneath and we'll be sure to answer you. See you on the next video. Cheers.